The sequels have a reputation for, let's put it nicely, playing it safe with the new planets it introduces. But I honestly think that's selling the world building in this trilogy short. While yes, the biomes are similar, the histories and lore of these planets are quite different. Let me take you through a few to show you what I mean. Let's start with The Force Awakens. Specifically, where The Force Awakened. Jakku. Jakku is a desert planet in the western reaches on the border between the known galaxy and the unknown regions. It was a planet that drew heavy attention from Palpatine, for obvious reasons if you know Palpatine's plans for the unknown regions, and he promptly set up an observatory around the time of the end of the Clone Wars or the beginning of the Empire. It was built on the Plaintive Hand Plateau, owned and controlled by the notorious Nema the Hutt, the namesake of Nema Outpost, where Rey would later live. Nema the Hutt is absolutely terrifying. Not only is she a skinny, fit Hutt who can take a hail of blaster fire and is extremely nimble and fast, but she has an army of mind-controlled zombie slaves with their mouths sewn shut at her disposal. Yeah. A deal was struck between Nema and Palpatine's appointed successor Gallius Rax, who was in charge of the observatory and meant to carry out Palpatine's orders from beyond the grave, including Operation Cinder. A denizen of the planet before he was able to escape aboard one of Palpatine's ships as a young boy, Gallius died during the Battle of Jakku, while using the observatory to drill to the core of the planet to destroy it along with both fleets, on and orbiting the planet. Speaking of the Battle of Jakku, it's pretty much the thing that put the planet on the map. Taking place 1 year to the day after the Battle of Endor, it's widely considered to be the Empire's last stand and the end of the Galactic Civil War. It's also the reason we see so many Star Destroyers and AT-ATs littering the land in The Force Awakens, remnants of the bygone Imperial era, just like Rey. One final anecdote to leave on is the Sitter, a mysterious, silent being who sits atop a pillar on the Pilgrim's Road near Carbon Ridge that Rey writes about in her journal. The reason he does this is unknown, but it brings to mind images of the old Stylites in the Middle Ages, priests who would sit on top of pillars for years on end as a sign of devotion to their religion. Now we move to the home of the pirate queen Maz Kanata, the planet Takodana. Takodana is a temperate forest planet in the western reaches, not too far from Jakku. Its surface is cratered with lakes, and on the shore of the Nymeave Lake, Maz Kanata's castle, or Takodana Castle, would sit until the Battle of Takodana in 34 ABY. Built on the site of an ancient conflict between Jedi and Sith, and across the lake from an ancient Jedi temple that was still in service around the time of the High Republic, Takodana Castle was a place with only one rule plastered on the wall for all to see. All are welcome, no fighting. Maz Kanata owned the castle for about 1,000 years before its destruction. Now let's move to the core, and to one of the least showcased planets in the film itself, Hosnian Prime. This planet, only seen briefly, was actually really important to galactic politics. It was the capital of the New Republic at the time it was destroyed, and being the last in a line on a list of rotating planets the Republic held its capital on. Outside the Senate building was a giant gleaming statue of Bail Organa, dedicated by Leia herself when she served the Senate. I find it insanely cruel and ironic that Bail gets blown up twice. Another feature of note I really enjoy are the hanging gardens, which apparently are one of the main things the planet is known for, and a great place to have lunch and argue about fascism. The planet was one of the main players in galactic politics for thousands of years, and over the course of that time became engulfed in a megalopolis, or as Rigoli puts it, the whole planet is one big city, much like Coruscant. Of course, at the heart of it all is the massive Senate building, although it was decidedly not structured like the one of the old Galactic Republic days. Instead of a massive domed room of floating platforms, it was a more humble chamber with rows of seats. There were screens and camera droids for individuals who wished to speak up, but no floating platforms for which to enter the center of the room to make a statement. It was in this chamber that Ransom Casterfoe revealed to the galaxy that Leia Organa was the daughter of Darth Vader, and later where the centrists of the Senate would vote to break away from the New Republic and join the First Order in 28 ABY. I would definitely love to get more into the politics of the Cold War period that took place right before the sequels start, but alas, we'll be here all day, so I'll have to give some quick cliff notes, and perhaps save that opportunity for another video. One last detail before I move on is the dating system used on Hosnian Prime, known as Hosnian Reckoning. It's probably my favorite in-universe dating system, as its dates correspond to our real-world years very closely. You see, A New Hope takes place in 79-77, and if you know anything about our world, A New Hope came out in 1977, so all you have to do is just take the 1 and swap it with the 7, and you'll get the corresponding date. And so every other film's dates can be closely linked to our own years in our universe. The Phantom Menace takes place in 7945 or 1945. Attack of the Clones takes place in 7955 or 1955. The Force Awakens takes place in 8011 or 2011 in our world. Anyway, enough of that tangent. Dakar. Dakar is a planet in the Outer Rim comprised mostly of flat and foggy grasslands. It's located specifically in the Eilenian system and has a large ring system orbiting it. It is close to Crate, no surprise there, and also Naboo, which is kind of surprising. It is home to the creep vine, featured in the Adventures in Wild Space series, a carnivorous plant species, though unlike the Drangir, it is not sentient. Speaking of sentience, it is devoid of any indigenous or settled sentient life. This fact made it the perfect hideout for the Resistance, who operated their main base on the planet. When the First Order tracked Black Squadron's recon team back to Dakar, the planet was briefly made the target of Starkiller Base, before the base was destroyed by Poe Dameron. The Resistance base was promptly destroyed by the First Order Dreadnought, but not before the base was evacuated. The Colossus Resistance cell arrived shortly after the evacuation to see the planet, again, devoid of intelligent life, with a smoldering red hole where the base used to be. And now we move to Starkiller Base. This one is far more interesting. In the sequel trilogy, this planet is known as Starkiller Base, but in the prequels, and for the majority of the thousands and thousands of years of galactic history, this planet was known as Ilum. Located in the unknown regions, hidden from the galaxy, it was the source of a lot of Jedi's kyber crystals, and was a rite of passage for Padawans to build their sabers. After the genocide of the Jedi, one of the most important cultural spots was co-opted and ravaged by the Empire for its crystals. Both Cal Kestis and Ahsoka witnessed the mega trench carved into the planet's equator in its mining operation, the beginning of what would become the First Order's home base of operations. Somewhere along the line after Operation Cinder and before Project Resurrection, the First Order settled the planet and converted the trench and seemingly what was left of the crystal hoard into a superweapon embedded into the very core of the planet. Poe Dameron and Kazuda Xiono stumble upon a cluster of cored worlds in their trip to the unknown region, seemingly tests by the weapon, or for construction of the weapon. The reason it was called Starkiller Base is because the weapon at its core was powered by the energy of a star, sucking an entire sun dry just to fire once. Though this shot can be devastating, as not only can the weapon shoot a beam capable of splitting into other beams and destroying an entire system of planets, R.I.P. Hosnian Prime, the beam can also travel through sub-hyperspace. The reason people around the galaxy could look into the sky and see the gravitational lensing caused by the beam's travel, which meant the base didn't have to actually travel to its target, like the Death Star had to. Poe Dameron destroyed the base during the Battle of Starkiller Base by blowing up the thermal oscillator with the help of Han Solo, Rey, Finn, and Chewbacca, turning the planet into a star, a poetic symbol for Han Solo's sacrifice during the battle. R.I.P., my boy. The brightest stars have hearts of Kyber, dedicated to Han Solo. Tune in next time where I'll cover the planets of The Last Jedi.